I know.
Okay. Welcome back to the From the Fabricator podcast. I'm your host, Max Perlstein. Thank you so much for joining me once again. It's been a few weeks. I usually don't like to go that long between podcasts, just the way the schedule worked out. So thanks. Welcome back. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by My Glass Class from the National Glass Association, myglassclass.com. That's where you find all your education. 24/7, 365, more than 100 courses, 60 of them in Spanish, built by the NGA, by people in the industry, for people in the industry. Check that out. Also check out, you've got time to get to Texas, May 16th and 17th. It is the Texas Glass Conference number 4, Texas GlassCon 4. Should be a great one. Lots of good speakers. Anytime you get a chance to see a guy like Jeff Haber, you need to see it. He's on a panel. Greg Ohlers is a legend. He is talking. So I'll be there as well, but the others are definitely worth well seeing. So check that out. May 16th and 17th, Texas Glass Association, TGA, GlassCon 4. If you can't find it online, hit me up and I'll point you in the right direction. All right, today, 2 great guests. Kyle Sharp, we'll talk a little bit about the TGA event from Sharp Glass in San Antonio, and Chris Giovannielli from Kawneer, unbelievable guy. Both great guys, both very, very intelligent, both well-spoken, both have it all together. We're going to start with Kyle, then go to Chris, and I'll see you on the other side with my typical TV stuff. Here's my interview with Kyle Sharp. Okay. Kicking things off this month is a great guy, good friend, Kyle Sharp, CEO of Sharp Glass in San Antonio. Sharpglass.com is their website address. He's also the president of the Texas Glass Association in his 3rd year doing that, and a big, important part of that world. Kyle, thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Hey, Max, thanks for having me. This is something I wanted to do for a long time, and I'm honored to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. You're a good man, and it's been great to get to know you, and now I'm excited to get to know you even more because I knew a little bit about your past because I had run into Sharp Glass in my past. But it was funny. You and I went to dinner a few years ago, and I found out a ton in just a short period of time. But I know that there's more. I'd love to hear a little bit more about where you grew up, your background, and then how you got into this wild and crazy business.
Yeah. I think there's a part of me that thinks that, maybe, a lot of people didn't grow up in the industry thinking they'd be here.
Right.
And I'm one of them. Although my dad started back in 1986, it wasn't one of those things that he encouraged me to do necessarily. He said that there's easier ways to make money. And of course I didn't listen, and here we are.
Yep. But I hear that from the old glass guys all the time. There's easier ways to make money, son. Move on. And yet we're all here. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
No. But I was never one of those people who really had a passion, something I thought I would be doing growing up. I didn't think I'd be a doctor or a marine biologist or, a lawyer or anything. And so, I went to Texas A&M. I got my degree in English and a minor in business. And so here we are, 17 years later. Really, getting into it though, I remember we were on vacation to Taos, New Mexico, of all places. It was between the final semester before I graduated from A&M. And I remember looking over at my dad and saying, hey, what if I come work for you? And he kind of gave me this look like, hey, this is not, I don't know what to think of that. And I think just out of, not knowing what to say or being nice or something, he said yes. But the other part of that story is I have a twin brother named Matt, and he asked the same question in the same moment. And so, here my dad was with 2, fresh out of school newbies, knew nothing about the glass industry, that he was now having to, put under his wing and show him how to figure this out. And so, Matt was a little different. He's one of those guys who knew exactly what he wanted to do in life. So a few months into it, he said, this isn't for me. He left the industry and became a firefighter, actually, for the city of Austin until he broke his back.
Ooh.
And he recovered. It's all good now. His other dream was to become an airline pilot, and he now flies for Southwest. So that's Matt. But as for me, my journey, I began estimating for about a year, learned the business that way. Project managed for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then at that point, it was around 2016, my dad and I sat down And he said, if we're going to grow this business, if we're going to, continue to scale, then, we're going to need to set up the future. And so one of the things that we looked at was, we both at the time we were, he was running and managing half of the projects, and I was project managing the other half. And so, he stepped back into the an estimating role, and I stepped up into the CEO role, and had him there to help guide me up until about 2 years later, when he decided to, move up to Horseshoe Bay, about an hour and a half north, a golf community up there, and left me alone to kind of fend for myself, which honestly, looking back, was the best time. I at that point I didn't have somebody to, every decision I was making was being double checked by everyone, because my dad being just down the hall. And so that ushers us into 2020. Back in 2016, we had talked about, scaling this business. How are we going to do it? One of the things he had mentioned was that in 2020 he wanted to retire.
Okay.
And so kind of in the background, I was working on with banks and negotiating that. And well, by the time we got everything negotiated and figured out, it was March of 2020.
Oh, great month. Yeah.
Oh, it was
Great
wonderful.
month, great year. Yeah.
We all know what happened there. And so by the time the bank, we sat back down, the bank was ready to look at something again with us. It was June of 2020, and finally signed those documents. But here we are 4 years later. In that 4 years, I've bought out my younger brother, Clint, who started in the business with me in 2015, and here we are.
That's great. That's great. I love the story, and I did not know about the English major. And why I jump at that is, it's funny. My daughter ended up graduating with a degree in English. She's just about to get her master's from Ohio University here in a week, which I'm really excited for. But the English major is what's fascinating to me, because now you're another person that I can point to has a success, because Ricardo Meis, the CEO of Vitro, was an English major and a teacher, and now I've got you. So great CEOs, following that path. And you've got the A&M. He went to Wharton. Again, great schools. Right now, people in Austin are furious listening to me say that. Hey, but I'm with an Aggie. I gotta say it. So
yep.
I gotta say it. But I love that part. And then obviously, it was neat to hear the fact that your dad stayed around for a couple years, but then you getting pushed into the deep end and really having to swim. And I think that was probably the right amount of timing, don't you think? The couple years to kind of, instead of day one, it was kind of like a transition.
I mean, honestly, when 2020 came about, we didn't even make an announcement internally that anything had changed. At that point, it really just felt like, it would have felt like, why are we even announcing this? It would have felt egotistical,
right?
To have to say, hey, look at me, I'm the new owner. So really, it just flowed very easily, and it made sense.
I love it. I love it. Now let's talk about Sharp Glass, because people will see your stuff. You're a top 50 glazer, but there's a lot of great players out there. Obviously, you're one of them. What is the secret sauce? What is the magic about Sharp Glass? What do you guys do, and where's your focus?
Oh man, I mean, one of the things that I guess I narrow that down. It's we recognize that being a trade partner is a privilege. One of our core values is partnership. Mm-hmm. And so really being a partner and having a relationship with our GCs is really what's most important to us. San Antonio and South Texas, they are big, but they act small, and that it's all about the relationships. It's all about who you know, and it's all about, helping the people that you know. Our projects range from zero to how can I help?
Yeah.
So it's what our customers want. It's what they expect.
Gotcha. And you are so you are big, small, and everything in between.
We are. Yeah. We're right now, our mix is about, we've got over 60 to 70 active projects. There are easier ways to do it. And so we've taken on this task, but it's it keeps us busy.
If you took a screenshot of the two of us and you said, which guy has the 70 projects going at once and which guy hosts the podcast, it would definitely be the stress guy with no hair and like 5 days of growth on his face, saying that he has the 60 projects, and the good suave looking guy with the great hair, the suit, the whole shoot match would be the one. Yeah, I host a podcast. Life's good. My gosh. I
Too
love it.
kind.
Good for you. You're good. You're good. All right. So speaking of good, one of the things that you guys are is NACC certified. I've been a fan of Jeff Dalaba, Ben Beeler, and the guys for a long time. Love the process. How was it for you though, in the company? Did you find it valuable? I mean, some people I talked to said, "Oh, it was really great. We changed things," and then other people I talked
Right.
to said, "Hey, we do that every day, and now it's just nice to have that certification." How about for you?
Yeah, for us, we received our certification back in, I think it was like October of 2020.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, that initial assessment was tough. I mean, we were coming, it was hard. We had a lot of work to do. Not to say we weren't doing things right, but getting things into a structure that makes sense to other people outside
Right.
of your business
Right.
is not an easy task. And so it was very, very good for us. And it really, I think it helped us move to the next level. Now, in full transparency, I joined the AGMCC board,
Right.
which of course oversees the NACC and the AGMT certifications back in 2022. So I'm a believer.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's
you
what you have to
know,
be, you know.
it's all about certifying our industry. I believe that certification is going to help the industry hold us to a higher standard, and that's good for everyone.
Absolutely. I've been a believer of it from day one. And yeah, I know Jeff won't let me near that board because I would cause too many problems, but I will always be a cheerleader from the sidelines big time. And I think I probably serve it a little bit better as a cheerleader than sitting in on the board. But I'm a big believer in it. And I will always remember the fact that if somebody who cuts your hair has to get a license and has to be
Mhm.
certified, why in the world are we not moving in that
Yeah,
direction faster and more furiously?
it just
Especially
makes
with
sense.
it just makes sense. Absolutely. So,
Yep.
so next up, we got a few more things to go, and I know you're a busy man. Hot products. What's hot for hot glazing products in San Antonio in the world of sharp glass?
You know, um, I feel like I've come to learn that it's not necessarily about the products, but finding a solution. And so,
Good.
one of the things is, we're really trying to be a solution-based group, and find products that maybe exist or don't exist, and really provide that for our customers. I think one thing that our industry has been embracing and for a long time is kind of the pre-glazed solutions. And I think, whether that's unitized or pre-glazed, those are going to continue to grow and continue to, be front and center as we evolve. San Antonio is a little behind the times. The stuff that they're doing in Dallas or Houston or Austin or New York or California, really, you're not seeing a whole lot of that here. So I know people are going to maybe listen to this and say, "Oh man, that's so 20 years ago or that's so
Yeah.
30 years ago." Well, they're not wrong. But it's I think it's going to continue to be front and center. And the more that you can find a way to do something up front in a quality environment, the better it is for the customer.
That's it. That's that, and I think it doesn't matter what market you're in. That's
Right.
the bottom line. But you're right. And I think unitized, even though, people in New York, like a guy like Jeff Haber, who we're going to see at the Texas Glass
Right.
Conference, in a couple weeks. Brilliant, brilliant guy, W&W Glass. I mean, he's been doing things that the rest of the world hasn't seen yet and won't see for 10 years. I
Right.
mean, he's
Right.
so far ahead of the curve. But to each market their own sort of thing, and you got to do what you
Yep.
got to do. And I think you're getting it. I do think unitized, pre-glazed, modular, that sort of angle is a must. Is a must. Very cool. So I got Kyle Sharp with me, CEO of Sharp Glass, sharpglass.com, also president of the Texas Glass Association. We're going to talk about the TGA momentarily. We got other things to talk about, but I got to break it up with a fun one. Kyle and his wife just welcomed a new addition. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
A major blessing in your world. And I asked him before the show if he was getting sleep. He says he is. That's good. He looks good, so he is getting the sleep. Curious if you ever have spare time anymore because you do have a young family. What does Kyle Sharp like to do in his spare time?
Oh man. Yeah, like you mentioned, we are now a family of three under five. So I've got my son Luke, who'll be 5 in June. My daughter
Nice.
Isla's turning who turned 3 in January. And like you mentioned, we just welcomed our daughter Margot
Yep.
about 6 weeks ago. So between the soccer, t-ball, swim lessons, gymnastics, it's there's a lot going on. But one of the things that I like to do or find time to do is take a few trips here and there,
Yep.
whether it's with buddies. Back in 2020, ended up doing the Bourbon Trail. Um, had an amazing time at that.
Nice.
2021 went to the Grand Canyon and did rim to rim. Uh,
Nice. Nice.
Took me about 10 and a half hours, and it was one of the most physically challenging things I've ever done in my life.
Excellent.
And then 2023 went to Bozeman, Yellowstone with some buddies, and so that was a really cool trip. But
I love it.
one of the things I really, like to keep front and center is some time with my wife. And so about twice a year, her and I get away, just the two of us on a beach vacation.
Good.
So
You should. That keeps it fresh and keeps it going. So I love it.
yeah,
I love the trips. Those are cool trips too. And get to blow off some steam. We do have a high pressure business, so it is nice
very much.
to, be able to, go out. And I'm sure you weren't looking at your phone when you were going rim to rim at the Grand Canyon. Uh,
Oh,
so I mean but that, you come back so recharged and refreshed. Even though it was physically grueling, it had to be a heck of a trip all the way around.
oh yeah, yeah, it was amazing.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I will say, fast forward 5 or 6 years, I don't know how you and your wife are going to run around with 3 kids to soccer, gymnastics, baseball, whatever it's going to be in that time, swimming.
I know it.
When it's 2 kids, you guys can team up. One takes one takes the other. The third one throws a little bit of a wrinkle into this. Good luck, my friend.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna need it.
You'll do fine. You'll do fine. All right. A few more things with Kyle Sharp, CEO of Sharp Glass. It's been fun to get to know you a little bit. But I know one of the things that, aside from Sharp Glass, that you are passionate about is the Texas Glass Association. Unbelievably awesome organization. I am biased. I've been heavily involved with the TGA for many, many years, but I love you guys. I mean, it's a great group. You do great things for the community and for the industry. And so curious, uh, why is it so important, in your mind that you're active? Because I mean, here, 20 minutes ago, we're talking. You've got 70 jobs in house, and you've got a company to run, but yet
Yeah.
you do give up of yourself to do this volunteering with TGA. Why? Why is it so important?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I'll say Texas loves you, Max. So
Thank you.
the feeling is mutual.
Thank you.
But there's a few reasons, and one of those is we personally trying to be that solutions based figure. Needing to know, being involved helps understand what's out there and what's new and what's coming.
Yeah.
We talked about the NACC certification, and we're one of the first. We were one of the early adopters of that, strictly because I knew about it through organizations like that. And so but secondly, it comes down to people. This business is all about relationships. It's all about you know it's all about the people. And so I can't tell you how many times I've been able to pick up the phone or make that phone call to someone that I had met through an organization that you know those relationships are just built when you're working alongside towards a common goal,
Hmm.
right? And so it's really great to have those. And finally, it's an opportunity to lead others.
Yeah.
I've been a part of TGA's board of directors for the past 4 years. One of those serving as secretary, and now the third year as president. And I really help enjoy helping our industry work towards something bigger than ourselves. And it's been rewarding to help lead the charge and challenge TGA to see what we can become, because we've got a great foundation. And if you're not changing, you're staying this, you're not growing. So
Yeah, can't sit still. Can't sit
yep,
still. And that's what TGA does. And so one of the big things, a lot of people recognize TGA for Texpo. And
yep,
Texpo happens every other year. It's a great trade show. But on these opposite years of Texpo is the Texas Glass Con, and this year's Texas Glass Conference, Texas Glass Con #4. And that's coming up on May 16th, May 17th, outside of Austin. Let's talk about that.
yeah,
This event's come a long way from a quick little lunch at Baylor University.
it has.
This thing is nice. I mean, it wasn't bad then, but this is really kind of taking a few leaps. You've got to be pretty pumped up. May 16th, May 17th. Again, Google the Texas Glass Association. If you're in Texas, or really anywhere in the country,
Yeah.
this agenda is well worth it. Talk about how excited you are for this one here in Texas coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, like you mentioned, this is our fourth one. Our first one took place in 2017, and again 2019. I think we did 2022 at the Kalahari
Hmm.
in Round
Yep,
Rock, just outside of Austin. But I think you've been a part of all of them,
I
haven't
have.
you?
I have. I'm
Yeah.
honored big time. Yep.
But it's an event all about improving your business. And so, we've got some really great speakers from all across the country. You mentioned whether you're in Texas or not. We've got people coming from outside of Texas to be a part of this event. And, it really provides not only a great access of knowledge, but it's networking, and of course, relaxing.
Yeah.
As we talked about, getting away is important. Um, Extremely excited about this venue. It's like you mentioned, the Hyatt Regency Lost Pines Resort, just outside of Bastrop. When I visited this place, because I hadn't been there before until we were scouting for this event, and I'll tell you, if I could live there, I would.
Can't wait.
It is incredible, and I'm excited. But let me jump into who we've got coming,
Please.
because that's where the let me see. I've got it right here. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait. Go ahead.
So yeah, this is a 2-day event. It's our second time to do a 2-day event, except this time we're going to do kind of a half day and a half day structure.
Right.
So come in on Thursday the 16th. We start at 1 and go to about 5:30. And then the second day we're going to pick up with start the day off with Max, and then go to about noon. I know
Right.
everyone kind of likes to get their Fridays started a little early. So our first coming in hot, we've got Greg Ohlers.
Legend. Absolute
Legend in the industry. Absolutely.
Brilliant too. If you've never seen Greg speak, it is worth just coming to see him speak, but also do not fall asleep on him because you will get hit by a piece of candy.
Next up, I've got a guy, his name's Kevin Monahan, and
Mhm.
he's doing a session on pay with purpose. And it's interesting, actually, talked with this guy, I don't know, 6-9 months ago, and he was on The Office, the show The Office with,
Really? Steve
yeah,
Carell.
Steve
Wow.
Carell. And
Wow.
what he talks about is kind of how Steve had become this huge star with the industry as The Office became more and more popular. He was getting all these roles, and NBC really had to have something in place to kind of keep him on board. And so this pay with purpose deal kind of maybe a little bit stems from that experience that Kevin saw um, that happen, and making sure that your employees are taken care of.
Nice.
Uh, we've got a panel going on about oversized dynamic and motion glass. We've got Kyle Jones, who's going to moderate that one.
Yep.
You mentioned Jeff Haber earlier. He'll be down to talk about some of his experiences with large glass, even projects in Texas. We've got Viracon that's there, and a company called it's motion. It's a motion glass product that you can put some, it's like billboard type stuff that you
Okay.
can see.
Multimedia. Yeah.
Yeah, like multimedia on glass.
Okay.
And really cool stuff that I can't wait to see. And then we're closing out the speaking session with Jim Morris, and I know Jim was
The rookie.
he's the rookie.
Yep.
The movie that Dennis Quaid did. I think it was, I can't remember the year, but I think he even spoke at an NGA event.
He did. He's a
Nashville,
fantastic speaker.
a few years
Fantastic
back.
speaker. Yep.
And
Several
so
years
we're
ago.
really excited. He actually lives in Texas, not too far from where we're at. And so we're super excited to have him on board to talk about, perseverance and, chasing your dream. And so he'll be there. And then we're going to close the night out with a kind of a reception, live music, cookout. And I think Jim's going to stick around and maybe sign some autographs and do a few
Wonderful.
things there. So
Wonderful. Yeah. And before you go to the second day,
yeah.
it must be the name Kyle, because Kyle Jones is tremendous.
Oh.
I mean, talk about a guy who doesn't miss. And so it's good that he's hosting that panel. I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job. He and that group have it all together there at PGP. It's good
They sure
people,
do.
good people.
They
But go
sure
ahead.
do.
So day two, you wake people up with My Ugly Mug, and then
Yeah.
and then we move on to some good stuff.
Yeah, so we've got another panel coming in. We've talked about, we've got a GC, a developer and architect
Wonderful.
panel. They're going to talk about kind of what it looks like from all of their different perspectives, and kind of what maybe, a side of what we're not seeing, and then in the background. We'll move into a risk management session with a guy named Jeff Wolfla, talking about insurance and kind of what to look for, what to be aware of. And then we'll finish the day off with a prefabrication discussion. We talked about trends, we talked about some of that stuff, but we've got kind of the future of glazing and what that looks like with modular construction, and we've got some guys that are gonna talk about that. So
That's big. That's big. Good stuff. Good stuff. And I know you ended out with some closing remarks. And again, it's May 16th and 17th. outside of Austin, a great resort. And, check out the Texas Glass Association online, sign up. Hotel reservations. By the time this podcast airs,
Right.
the block will be closed, but you can still probably get in there, but still sign up. So,
Definitely.
you definitely want to be there. I'm excited for that. And I'm honored to be there. Thank you for having me again.
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
being involved, and I just love seeing the way this thing continues to grow. The sky is definitely the limit, and you guys are good folks. All right, couple more questions for Kyle Sharp, CEO of Sharp Glass. See them online, sharpglass.com. So odd one in a way in the industry. What's one thing that has you positive about the future, and what's one thing that's got you a little bit worried?
All right. Well, hey, let's start positive first,
Yeah,
right? So I love the fact that as an industry, we are so open to innovation. I believe that the spirit of our industry is incredibly unique, and we're at the kind of the intersection of technology and people, and I just think that creates a really resilient environment that leaves us open to trying new things.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of good things there. I really do.
Absolutely. Resilience always, always. Yeah, you nailed it there. Okay, and then on the flip side, what are you worried about?
I think there's a need for our industry to improve processes so that we are maybe less reliant on the new people as they come into the industry. Inevitably you need more people in this industry. And so, the more processes we have, the easier that transition can be. For us personally, one of the things we're looking at is creating an ERP system that, will allow us to track the progress of every product, and kind of give it transparency internally and really both externally.
Yeah.
And so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that's big. That's big, and that's something that still needs to be fleshed out. That's that software and that approach. All right, you got it. You got it. All right, last question for Kyle Sharp. This has been a lot of fun. I've learned, and I'm again pumped to see you in person. How's 2024 going for you guys, and what's 2025 looking like for you? It's a weird world we're in right now. I mean, it
Yes.
sometimes pivots between softness and really busy, and backlogs all of a sudden look good, and then they slip, and then they slide. I mean, it's it ain't normal. It's not pre
No,
2020 anymore. So, but
no, it's not. I mean,
how's
hey, throw the
2020?
election in there as well, right?
Oh yeah, the election's a whole nother kerfuffle. I mean that who knows what comes out of that. I mean the world will change 20 different ways. But how's 2024 looking? And then assuming that we have some calmness through November, what's 2025 looking for you?
Yeah, 2024 started off really strong for us. It was really our best first quarter ever in sales,
Well, great.
and our second best quarter ever overall. And so, it started strong. There's been a few kind of maybe a little dip, but I think it's coming right back up for us at least. And so, we're really excited. We're looking at expanding our offerings. Maybe including those metal panels or including those louvers, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And so, with the ever-changing marketplace, you gotta do what you gotta do. But we're excited. 2025 uh, feels really exciting. I think that's what it's showing on kind of some of the things. But we're here for it. We're ready.
You're ready. Yeah, I don't think you're afraid of any challenge.
No,
I love that. This has been fun. Yeah, I enjoy getting to talk to you and learning a few more things about you, and just your kind of thought process. No wonder you guys are rocking because you got a good head on your shoulders, my friend. So thank you so
oh,
much
I
for doing
appreciate
this.
that.
I've had Kyle Sharp, CEO of Sharp Glass. See him at sharpglass.com. See him also at Texas Glass Con #4 in Austin, outside of Austin, May 16th and 17th. My friend, thank you so much for the time.
Max, thank you.
Okay. Next up on the From the Fabricator podcast, Chris Giovannielli of Kawneer, Director of Global Product Management. Catch them online at www.kawneer.com. Chris, thank you so much for joining the podcast. Can't wait to talk with you.
Yeah, I look forward to it, Max. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Been a big fan of yours, just from afar. I've seen you at different events. We've talked here and there. Conair obviously is a massive supporter of our industry, and also, a pretty significant player. So curious to talk a little bit more about that. But let's start with you. Your background. I love this part because so many people I get to know through the industry, but I don't know where they came from, where they grew up, went to school, how they got to the industry. It's more like, hey, what's new at Conair sort of thing. So talk to me about your past. Where'd you come from? How'd you get here?
Yeah, good, thanks. Really, the story begins where I grew up in New Jersey, and I worked for my parents' glass and metal company, Midway Glass and Metal, in New Jersey. So I grew up in the industry.
Did
So
not know
when
that.
I was a kid, yeah, when I was a kid, sitting at the kitchen room table, I would hear about, what it would take to sell a job, what it meant to, you know, have incoming or have a truck go down or needing equipment. And so I was learning the business at a very young age
Sure.
and seeing what my parents were having to manage. And then, working with my dad and my mom, who both worked in the company, kind of learning if you want to say, the financial piece of it, the accounting piece, which is what my mom would manage. And then my dad would manage the day to day along with my uncle on the installation, fabrication, and ordering of material. So I kind of grew up in it and then evolved into, starting out washing the trucks or loading the screw boxes, and doing the grunt stuff as an
Sure.
owner's son. That's where you usually start off at, right? You got to work your way up the ladder, so to speak. And so I did that as probably middle school, 12, 13 years old, kind of learning it from there and then evolving into high school, working summers with my parents and really learning the guys' trade out in the field from a fabrication point to an installation side of it. And then, I really I didn't want to go to college because I was like, Dad, I'll just work for you. There's really no
Right.
reason, right? I got a truck, I got tools, I can go do it. And my parents were really adamant that, hey, you got to go to school, you got to get an education, and push me to go to college. And it was a lot of back and forth, right? And so I finally, succumbed, if you want to say, and I really listened to what my dad had said, and he's like, hey, what happens if they stop building buildings in New Jersey? What are you going to do? And
Right.
as a high school kid, you don't necessarily think of that, really, maybe. And
Right.
so I went to University of William Patterson College, University in New Jersey, Wayne, New Jersey, and actually, worked part-time and went to school. So I lived at home, and so I
Okay.
was a commuter. And so I was able to get the balance of learning business administration through the
Nice.
college and then working the day-to-day stuff in the field, which ultimately, after I graduated, got me into the office where then I could be a project manager
Okay.
and go through all of the steps of reviewing bids, going
Hmm.
through the ordering process, using my field experience, and then ultimately bringing it into the office. And I did that after I graduated for about 3 or 4 years. And I wanted to try something different. And my parents said, you could always come back to the business. And so at that time, Dick Voorhees was the vice president of Kawneer,
Yep.
and he happened to come by, as he often did, visiting with customers and the local sales guy, kind of get a pulse of the industry, of the customer. And so I gave him my resume, and he says, I think we may have a spot for you. And so he came back, several weeks later and said, would you be interested in interviewing for a training department position out of our corporate office in Norcross, Georgia? And he goes, with your experience out in the field and in the office, we could use somebody like you. And here I am, living in New Jersey all my life,
Yeah.
and now having an opportunity to move and move to Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
That was a huge step for me personally.
Sure.
But my mom and dad were true advocates and supporters of this opportunity. And here I am 27 years later with the organization in different roles
Yeah.
throughout, but it started in the training department. That was where I cut my teeth in the company, is in the training department.
Wow. Wow. I had no idea of any of that. And so you have that connection to Dick, who obviously is a legend in our industry and created so much. And then you jumped from the family business pretty quick and never looked back.
Yeah, it
Did
was
you ever get guilted? Did dad and mom ever guilt you and say, "Hey, are you coming home?" Sort of
yeah,
thing.
it was, yeah, I'm an only child. And
Okay.
so I was very independent growing up. And this was something they said, look, you can do this. You could always come back to the business. But you'll have so much more exposure in the industry
Yeah.
in Kawneer, North America, as well as now Kawneer Europe, that you could never get working at Midway Glass. And Midway Glass will always be there. You could
Yeah.
always come back to it. but I was able to use my education thanks to my parents pushing me to get that business degree, and then using my experience afterwards or during my high school and if you want to say middle school grade to understand and learn the business, so that now when I stand in front of a customer, I have a little bit more knowledge about what it's like to run a business, to go through the challenges of bidding work or finding labor, or being able to talk to the guy out in the field and have an issue with a fastener or a gasket, or how things come together, where things may leak. And so it was, the hardest part was telling my friends that, hey, I'm going from New Jersey to Atlanta, Georgia back in 1997. Are they really? Italian Catholic kid from New Jersey moving to Atlanta, Georgia? That's a big step, right?
It is.
And it worked. 27 years later, I'm still here, learned a lot about the business, and really and kind of an ambassador for the organization, and trying to recruit. And that's, I know, one of the topics we'll talk about later.
Sure.
But I've it never guilted me into it, but it always takes pride in knowing that, hey, you did it from a family business, and now here we are in this role in the organization.
Sure. Yeah. Congrats. And it's a great story. And obviously, as your parents were in business, that, Kawneer is the gold standard, and so, their boys working for the, for the top of the top sort of thing. So that there is a pride there. I'm sure that they're like, hey, it's not like you went to some nondescript place in Atlanta. You went to Kawneer. That's pretty cool.
And Dick Voorhees was an advocate for me. He understood and knew the challenges of an organization and trying to find young people to develop into leadership roles in the organization. And no better opportunity to take somebody that, been in the field, been in the office, has a business degree, and we can mold and cater. So Dick Voorhees was a true advocate for me and supporting me into this opportunity, and then seeing my career go from there.
No doubt, no doubt. And the Dick Voorhees, coaching tree, I would call it. It's got some people on it, and obviously you're one of them, which I did not know. Some real talented and successful people in our industry. Very cool, very cool. So, all right, switching to Kawneer, let's talk about what's going on over there. What's hot and happening in the world? It's funny. I've had a couple people from Kawneer on this podcast in the past. Henry Taylor I've had on just more recently, but I always love to find out what's going on in the world of Kawneer. What's new?
What's new? Really, the focus is around these market segments in developing in those. As Kawneer, you look at it in the past, we would try to come out with a product and would try to manage all different scenarios, and it was becoming very challenging to try to meet all of that. And so we've now broken it down into market segments, which is what we tend to see in the area in our world in Division 8, which is fenestration systems, is really focusing in on an education segment or a multifamily or healthcare, and really coming out with products that focus on that. And so what's been very strong for us has been the education market segment. When you look at how the architects now are designing schools, they're not the typical brick and mortar. They're now atriums, right? Where you have big curtain walls, lots of entrances. It becomes the showcase for the community. Yeah. So it's an educational tool that represents what that school district has for a vision going forward. And so you see a lot of that type of design. It also helps with line of sight, right? For security, seeing what's coming to the entrance of the building. So there's multiple things that are built into that, vision that we are working on from an education side of it for an architect. On the healthcare side of it, similar concerns. We talk about thermal, we talk about acoustical and the requirements that we're seeing with regards to that. There's a bigger focus now on university type hospitals where, 4 or 5 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the focus. It was more of a medical office building park. Now we're getting into much larger type facilities for hospital care. And so we're focused on that. You'll see our thought leadership series. If you follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, we're more focused on thought leadership and identifying problems and solutions. So now our case studies that we're now promoting on Kawneer.com is really trying to show the architect, here is what a problem was and here was a solution, and using the case studies to show how that was completed. And you'll see a lot more of those case studies on our website. So we're really trying to develop solutions around market segments, and then in that solution, create a portfolio of case studies that the architects can use to help solve some of those challenges. So a lot of focus has really been around thought leadership and designing programs that can provide a resource for an architect to go for that solution.
And it's all about, the architects need those resources. And I've seen a little bit of the thought leader subject matter online, and it's really, really good. And I know that there's a bunch of people that do marketing at Kawneer, but Jessica Clark, I believe, is the one I work with, and she's really, really sharp and on it. And so this doesn't surprise me that you guys are, really stepping up to try to, lead and bring the architects the info they need so they can make the right decisions.
It's all about providing them the options. For an architect, they're jack of all trades, master of none, right?
Right. Right.
And so we're providing resource solutions to help them with that design criteria or that challenge. And we try to keep it in what we consider a standard or modified standard. Once you get outside of that into more custom, then there's a lot more of those challenges. And so we're developing and building more into that standard application to give the design architect a lot more flexibility in how he goes about choosing it.
And you nailed it. And in your 27 years, that whole position of architect has changed. 27 years ago, they didn't have to be kind of know a little bit about everything. They could stay more focused. But now the world has changed so much. They have to just know a little bit about everything, and they can't keep up. So thought leader things and resources and case studies like this really, really help. And I really like what you also said about the elementary schools on being, or just the schools themselves, being the showcases for the community. And that didn't used to be either. That's a nice change for us in the glass and glazing industry, because that's where we get to show off, right? And I love the whole thought of atriums and entrances. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it really showcases, obviously the school, but then it translates into the library or into the cafeteria, where there's a lot more natural light. And plenty of studies have shown the more natural light that you allow into a classroom, the better attentive, more learning, blah, 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 right? So, it's going from the entrances and going into the classrooms. And it's not just K through 12. We're seeing, the same focus in university and college type dormitories or classrooms, because as parents, we pay for an education, but the school look at it as it is now part of the, if you want to call the experience, right? Yeah. Do you have the Chick-fil-A? Do you have the gym? Do you have all of these amenities that they're so used to prior to coming to school? Is now, yes, as parents, we want the education, but the kids also have to have the experience. And the colleges are rotating to creating more of that experience in more larger lights of glass, more entrances, and having that retail, and then the living quarters, if you want to say, above it, right? And that more replicates what we see in today's environment and growing up for the students. So it's just not K through 12. The endowment money is being spent because it's all about trying to recruit more into the colleges.
Beautiful. Spend that money and use glass and glazing. So speaking of glass and glazing, a couple decades of your work at Kawneer, I love asking this question to people like yourself. What's your all-time favorite project and why? Because I know it's a tough one, but I gave you a few weeks to think about it.
Yeah, and I spoke about this one at the Facades Plus in New York City. It's the Candida building at Georgia Tech. Okay. This was a building that was really the focal point for the Georgia Tech University, and how they could become kind of the ambassador for leading change in how students look at engineering from a sustainability facade standpoint. They often look at the controls for HVAC and heating and cooling and how to maintain the water and all of those items that are true focal points when you look at the design, but it's then looking at the actual facade. And this is really kind of hits in the sweet spot for myself, is that we now have a building that takes in the aluminum structure, the natural daylighting, the infill glass makeup, and really set the building up for success. And being that it's almost 80% more efficient than any other buildings at the campus. Now, wow, Georgia Tech, really? But It's just how old the campus has been and what they're doing to set up the program going forward. And so all students at least have 1 to 2 classes in that building so that they can see the benefits of a wood structure, the aluminum framing, the sun control devices, the photovoltaic panels on the roof, the operable windows. They're really encompassing all of our standard product incorporated into a system that doesn't need to be custom. You can design this from what we offer on our website. So for me, you're meeting the high performance of a building. You know, we look at sustainability, and defining sustainability is like defining happiness. It's going to be different for everybody, right? But for Kawneer, we were able to come up with a design built around a structure that really focused on the environment, the facility around it, and then optimizing the overall performance of the building. So without a doubt, that one for me, and that's a recent project. There's 27 years. There's a lot of projects that, oh, look at that. There's the Kohl Center, or there's Honda dealership with our product. But it's really something that is, I talked about earlier, it's an educational tool for the community. This happens to be the Georgia Tech University.
Nice, and not far from your HQ either. So it's nice to be able to bring people by there, and especially since you have such a wide range of products, it's a showcase for you. Very cool. That makes sense. Very, very cool. All right, mixing up a little fun one. I like to ask a fun question each podcast. If you had a dinner date with 3 people, you can name them, dead, alive, whatever the case may be, who would those 3 people be and why?
So first would be Roger Penske. I look at an individual like that, who his career started in racing, but then it went into the business environment. And you think about the dealerships, Penske trucking, Penske leasing equipment, and looking at the evolution of that individual in manufacturing and in the business acumen, just to be able to sit down with him at dinner or coffee and just listen to the story and learn how he put the program together from not only a racing perspective, but from a business perspective. That would be one individual I would really cherish the moment to sit with him and just pick his brain or just listen.
Tremendous call. And before you tell me 2 and 3, that Penske actually was in a little bit of the news this past week because the NFL draft was in Detroit. And the last time the NFL had anything big in Detroit was the Super Bowl, which was, I believe, in 2006. And Roger Penske was the leading advocate for the Super Bowl to come to Detroit. And he was behind it, but the city wasn't ready. The city hadn't come back yet the way it is now. No. And Roger Penske went and I believe out of his own pocket, spent a ton of money, sprucing up, fixing up parts of the city so the city didn't look embarrassing on national television. And I mean, he knew that the city was on a good path, but it wasn't quite there yet and needed somebody to step up and do it. And those stories came back around after this weekend's successful NFL draft in Detroit. So it's funny that you bring up Roger Penske because I heard about him the last couple of days. Okay, tell me number 2.
Number 2 would be Joe DiMaggio.
Okay.
Great baseball individual from the New York Yankees. Just knowing the history of the Yankees, and he's such a major part of that history on the success of the program and then where it is, evolved over the years. Everybody knows Joe D, right? And the great story behind his professional and business life outside of the New York Yankees. And I always remember him, Mr. Coffee, right?
Mr. Coffee.
That was his next, if you want to say, career outside of the Yankees, and was very successful with it. And so that to me kind of, I always try to get the business side of it. And, that was a great example of being, a great Yankee tradition and then moving on to other aspects of the world outside of baseball.
So can I assume to say you're a Yankee fan?
There are days I am and then days I'm not. But yes, okay. I am a Yankee fan, just seeing their success over the years in those programs.
They're playing well right now. They had a good weekend, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, and last, who's number 3?
For number 3, I would go James Baker. He was a political figure in the 80s with Ronald Reagan and George Bush. And he was Secretary of State. And during those times, it was very challenging, and he was very stoic. And he often, read about him, kind of ran the White House for a number of years because of that position as Secretary of State, and knowing the importance of world leaders and having to manage that. And that was always an individual that I found that navigated some very challenging times in this world. And he would be a guy that I would love to be able to just ask him, how did you negotiate some of these deals and live through that process?
Yeah, yeah, he had to thread some needles, that's for sure. Neat three people, neat three people. I like that. Penske, DiMaggio, and James Baker. I like it, Chris. You got some good taste, and you put good thought into it. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. All right, next up, AGMCC, Architectural Glass and Metal Certification Council. It's something that you've been involved in almost, I think, from the beginning, if not from the beginning. What is it all about, and why is it so important to our space? I know why, but I think it's important for the audience to hear from you.
Yeah, for me, I told you how my career started, in the training department.
Right.
And the most important book in the Kawneer company, and in any company, and sometimes the least looked at, is our installation instruction, right? And so many times, you forgot to do this, forgot to do that. Well, did you read the installation instructions? Oh, I hadn't looked at that. Well, to me, this program really brings that together for the industry, because many times the manufacturers will have their training programs or their certification programs for installing products. But when you look at this program, it really looks at the fundamentals so that it becomes certified for the installer across all spectrums. And I look at it like, a electrical or plumbing. They all have a license number on their truck, or the individual's gone through some type to get certified.
Yeah.
This is a great way to get the glazing contractors, glazing installers into that program, so that they have that viability of, I've gone through this and I have been certified, and also I have continued education that I need to maintain to go forward. And for me, the passion has always been, you want to do the install right the first time, because every time you go out after that to fix something, you're losing money, period, because jobs are tight, no different, right?
Absolutely.
And so for me, Kawneer has been a strong advocate from day one. My predecessor, Donnie Hunter, was involved, and then I've taken over for Donnie in this role. And Kawneer has been a strong advocate for promoting it, providing the materials, providing the direction, the leadership, the promotion. And so working with Jeff and the team there is really personally very beneficial for me, because it's what I started in. And any way that we can continue to promote this and get more guys into the program, get them certified, and continue education is just going to make it better for our industry.
No doubt, no doubt. And before you on this podcast, I had Kyle Sharp from Sharp Glass in San Antonio, who is an NACC certified installer, and we talked a little bit about that. So I like driving that point home. It's just so important. It's so important for our industry. I'd like to see more and more people get into it, both on the individual side on AGMT and also on the company side, NACC. So props to you, Chris, for being involved in AGMCC and everybody on that board and an organization. It's good stuff. Good stuff. So thank you. Thank you. So a couple more questions, because I know you're busy, but we'll be wrapping up soon. Advice. You hinted on it a little bit earlier about how we recruit, how we get people in our industry, how we can navigate this world and grow. What's some thoughts on that for trying to attract people, and what do you tell them? What's your whole feel on this recruiting angle?
Yeah, on the recruiting angle, the focus is trying to get in front of college students at engineering schools like Georgia Tech or Texas A&M, to show them the career opportunities that a facade has outside of an architect designing it. You can be an engineer, a mechanical, civil, whatever it may be, to really design and help show the performance that a framing system has on the overall aesthetics of a building, but the operation. And so for me, it's really about educating the college students all the way down to the technical side, which is the glazing installers, right? But for me, getting them into it, we've got to start at the college level. Sometimes we look at doing seminars and promotions at the different schools and thought leadership series that they do to try to bring in outside companies to show the students here are opportunities outside of being a general contractor, because they do a really good job of recruiting. But there's the glazing contractor side of it as well, or the metal manufacturer side of it, that really focuses on the overall operation of a building versus just the aesthetics of a piece of glass and aluminum. And so our focus has been really trying to drive more exposure of our industry to different grade levels throughout the program. And we sponsor several different programs at Georgia Tech and trying to recruit students into different intern programs or leadership programs in design.
Beautiful, beautiful. We got to get these people in there and have them spend nice long careers like yourself. That's what we need. Need more of that. All right. So wrapping up, last question, the big question. How you feeling about the economy overall? How's Kawneer doing? What's the rest of the year look like, and then into next year? I mean, I think we're all kind of grasping out there, trying to get a feel. What's your feel?
Same thing. You have pockets of the country that are stronger than others. In the multifamily, I would say education market segment is strong, and in the remodel or new construction. And remember when I talk about the K through 12, we're also including university and colleges, where there's just as abundant amount of work in that. But as you can imagine, you've got more people coming down and coming up going after that because they see that work, right? Yeah. And so it's all about the upfront work with the architect, becoming that basis of design and giving them the materials and the thought leadership around what products that we can use to do that. So education is still very strong. Healthcare, as we talked about earlier, is focusing on in different areas of hospital, university type work. But as you can imagine, you've got more manufacturers and customers coming down and going up, chasing that work. This year, I think going into 2025, we'll see a little bit more of a pickup in other market segments that have been down, maybe like commercial or retail pockets of that. But it's the strong ones will continue to be around healthcare and education, and then what the next trends with the interest rates will be the big divider, I think, in helping us know when that private work really begins to break loose. Right now, I think it's a little tight, right, for the interest rate. But if that can come down maybe a half a point or a point, boy, I think things would become not budget round, it would be more buy round.
Yeah, I think that's the big key is those rates, and hopefully they get a little bit of relief. But I know lately, and that's kind of caused some consternation that it looked like it's not going to come down. Maybe they're kind of push it up a little bit, and it turns to the stomach a little bit. We're close though. We just need to keep battling. So, but I like your take. And Kawneer overall doing okay. You guys good?
Yeah, we're good. We're strong, focusing on the customer experience and driving more product development, enhancements, and qualifications to keep that product pipeline going for the customer. Being the architect, continue to do those thought leadership, the AIA presentation. We look forward to being at the AIA convention in Washington, D.C. The first week of June. Where we'll do a lot of educational seminars, because that's today. The architects want to learn to keep their education, their points, if you want to call it that, but their continuing education points going. But really, it's about educating the architect, and here are problems and solutions that we can work together. So the AAA, our Basics 101, we're using a lot of the thought leadership on YouTube videos, around Instagram. These ideas that architects are getting are not always, from a brochure. They're getting it from Pinterest. They're getting it from Instagram. They're getting it from Facebook. They're getting these ideas and visions through electronic media. And as you mentioned, Max, with Jessica and Jen and the team and the Kawneer marketing department, the focus has really been around providing that thought leadership around a vision, and then giving the architect the ability to use our resources to evaluate and build from there.
Brilliant. You guys are tough. You're doing the right things. I love it. Chris Giovannielli, Director, Global Product Management, Kawneer. See them online at kawneer.com. My friend, thank you. This was from start to finish a good education for me. I enjoyed the insight, and I look forward to seeing you in person one of these days. I assume at this point it'll probably be glass build in the fall, but I look forward to seeing you. But thank you so much for the time. Thank you for everything.
Hey, thanks, Max. Thanks for the effort. Appreciate it.
Okay. That wraps things up for this month. Thank you to Kyle Sharp. Thank you to Chris Giovannielli. Great guys. I hope you picked up some things. I know I did. Once again, this podcast is brought to you by the National Glass Association and myglassclass.com and their brand new myglassfab.com. And so check that out for your glass and glazing education. It's the only way to go for your education. TV-wise, a few things for you. A couple on Hulu, one on Apple. If you're a music fan, the Bon Jovi documentary. There's a brand new 4-part documentary series on the group Bon Jovi, John Bon Jovi. I've not gotten to watch it yet, but I'm excited. I've heard from some friends that it's fantastic, so looking forward to that. Also on Hulu, coming in a well, by the time this comes out, it should be out, the latest season of Welcome to Wrexham. I'm a huge fan of the Wrexham football team, owned by Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, the Hollywood actors. It's a great series, neat look at this football team, soccer team in Wales. Welcome to Wrexham comes back on Hulu May 5th. If you have not checked that out, its first 2 seasons are already up, 3rd season coming out now. And then last on Apple is a new version of Manhunt. It's the Abraham Lincoln murder and the investigation and chase of John Wilkes Booth. That again looks fantastic. I'm about to watch that as well. So it's things I'm about to watch this month instead of what I am watching. I'm catching up on a bunch of stuff right now that I talked to you about last month. So I'm behind a little bit in catching up on my TV. So thank you so much for listening. We got a great podcast scheduled for next month and a couple 2-parter coming up in the summer, special editions as we celebrate the 49th and 50th podcast in this series. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.
Oh, the music is stopped.